To present the 1990 Soul Train Music Awards Heritage Award, here is the man who inaugurated this award in 1987 when selected as our first Heritage Award recipient. And like this year's honoree, he remains in peak form as one of the greatest artists of our time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stevie Wonder.
Thank you all very, very much. It is indeed my pleasure to be here. We have a lot to be happy for today. I want us to give a very, very great hand to the freedom of Nelson Mandela. Now an end to apartheid. The career accomplishments of this year's Heritage Award recipients might compete for importance with a gallery full of priceless paintings by one of the great masters. And like many of the great masters, he is no stranger to perfection, since he has hung out in that neighborhood for most of his professional life. He has enriched all of our lives during the last 4 decades through his brilliant work as a musician, arranger, composer, movie producer, and record producer. And indeed, there are very few in the world who have achieved creative and commercial success in as many areas as Quincy Jones. It's also doubtful that any man or woman in this industry has met and overcome more difficult conditions and barriers along the way. Quincy Jones, it's an incredible continuing story to which Quincy Jones adds a great new page almost every single day. I'm very pleased at this time to introduce Dionne Warwick, Patti LaBelle, Luther Vandross, and 13-year-old Tevin Campbell on a journey through just a few of the many important songs Quincy Jones gave his talent, his time, and his love to as a great producer.
How do you keep the music playing? How do you make it last? How do you keep the song from fading too fast? How do you lose yourself to someone and never lose your way? How do you not run out of new things to say? If we can be the best of lovers, yet be the best of friends, if we can try with every day to make it better as it grows within it love, then I suppose the music never ends.
One of my favorite Quincy Jones records is his cover of this Roberta Flack classic. Check it out. The first time ever I saw your face, I thought the sun rose in your eyes, your eyes, and the moon and the stars worth the gift you gave to the dark and endless sky, my love. Ooh, hey, yeah. The first time ever I saw your face, when I saw your face, I saw your face, your face, your face.
I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough. But here we are back where we were before. Seems nothing ever changes. Oh, we're back to being strangers, wondering if we ought to stay or head on out back door. Just once. Can we figure out what we keep doing wrong? Why we never last so very long? Where are we going wrong? Tell me just once. Can we find a way to finally make it right? Or make the magic last for more than just one night? If we just get through it, maybe we can do it. Just once. I know tomorrow will bring better you, better me. I know that we'll show this world we got more we could be. So you should never give up on your hope and your dream. You gotta get up, get into it, get it on. To be strong, if we try, we can fly to a whole nother place. All we need is belief and a smile on our face. If tomorrow is bright in a place where there's none, oh yeah. Now is the time to have faith in us all. We know we're all in this world, and we all can get it on. We gotta get up, get over it, get it on. Tomorrow is long, see no place where there's none. Oh, now is the yeah. In us all, all in this world, and we all can get it on. Yeah, get over it, get it on to the song. Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1990 Soul Train Music Awards Heritage Award recipient, Mr. Quincy Jones. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Quincy. Happy birthday to you.
How old are you?
No. Congratulations, Quincy.
Love you.
Stevie Wonder. One of the greatest things about getting old in this business, is you know a lot of stuff. And I remember him backstage at the Apollo when he was 12 years old, and I knew he was going to do it. I could feel he was asking all of the questions. I mean, sociologically, philosophically, politically, and musically. He wanted to know everything. And Stevie is probably one of my biggest inspirations about the speech I'd like to give tonight. Stevie Wonder, I love you. And one of the other great joys about being a producer is to see something happen tonight, like with El DeBarge and Al B. Sure and Barry White and James Ingram. And I'd like to thank Saida Garrett and Rod Temperton and El DeBarge and all the people, and Bruce Whitty and the people that helped, millions of people that helped pull this together, because it's not easy. And I'd like to thank everybody out there for hearing where we're coming from and supporting us and being there for us. I really mean that. Since this is my birthday today, I'd like to tell you something that comes from deep inside of me, and I'd like you to listen. I'd like to thank the Soul Train voters. I'd like to thank Don Cornelius and Stevie again, because his artistry and friendship, as I said before, is the inspiration for this speech this evening. It gives me a lot of pride tonight to receive an honor that bears the title, the Heritage Award. And I want you to listen to me, because I think some of you don't hear me. It's really important. You can party, we'll party afterwards. One of my favorite dictionary terms and definitions of heritage is heritage. Something possessed as a result of one's natural situation or birth. And the heritage I drew upon 40 years ago when I first entered the music business is a great living resource. It's a tradition that passes from one generation to another, and it's an unending progression that grows and changes, but still somehow it remains true to what the roots are all about. And the continuity of Black American music tradition is very important to me, and I hope I've given something back to it, back to that heritage, because God knows it has given me and all of us so much. And tonight, the word heritage holds a real special meaning for me, because I'm not only celebrating this beautiful award, but I'm celebrating my 57th birthday, and I thank you for celebrating with me. It's great to get there. And I'm living proof that in music, there's a whole lot of life after adolescence. A whole lot of life, I promise you. And all the fresh young jacks out there, all the beautiful fresh young jacks out there, you have the opportunity to spend a long time in this business. A long time. Don't go for the short trip. You can make a lot of great music and watch our Black tradition continue to unfold. But the key to longevity in this business, it ain't about instant success. It ain't about reaching for superstardom before you got your chops together and you have a chance to develop as an artist. It's about learning what you're doing, learning your craft, developing your art. It's about being spiritual. And it's about musical growth. It's about being ready. A couple of months ago, Clarence Avant, one of my closest friends, he brought over Bobby Brown to my house for lunch and do a little hanging. And as Bobby was leaving, after he ate up all my food and everything, He's looking on the pictures on the wall, and he saw a photo with a brother that had a hairdo that looked just like his. And he said, "Hey, man," he said, "that dude's copying my Gumby." The picture he pointed to was a photo of my father taken in 1934. So Gumbies really ain't no big thing, and no new thing, you know? They are part of a tradition. 40 years ago, Count Basie, when I met him, used to call me homeboy. So that ain't no new thing either. That's part of a tradition. And today's rappers are just beginning to learn, and I've had real close and warm relationships with most of them, are beginning to learn that they're part of a real great tradition that started hundreds of years ago. It's about dropping science on them, about the African griots and storytellers, oral historians, thousands of years ago. None of us, nobody got here where we are today without the spiritual and the practical help from all those people that came before us. I would not be standing on this stage today if it weren't for people like Ray Charles, who I've known since 14, Count Basie, Oscar Pettiford, Dizzy Gillespie, Clark Terry, who taught me how to put my trumpet to my lips, Duke Ellington, who's been my God forever, Bumps Blackwell, Benny Carter, and Bobby Tucker, who was Lady Day's musical director, who I played with when I was 15, and hundreds of others who carried me on top of their shoulders before I could stand on my own 2 feet as a musician and an artist. And don't you ever forget that. There's a lot of people before you, and it's one continuous expression of a lot of people, and it's one unified sound. I owe a tremendous debt to these people, just as today's singers like Michael Jackson, Prince, James Ingram, El DeBarge, Bobby Brown, Al.B. Sure, Luther Vandross, and young Tevin Campbell. They owe a big part of their success to Nat King Cole, those pioneers, Billy Eckstine, Sam Cooke, James Brown, Otis Redding, and Marvin Gaye. It's one family. When I was coming up, I always thought that the black music community, I thought of it as a family. And like all good families, we took care of each other. We cared about each other because we knew it wouldn't last forever. We took care of each other when times were not so good. And I remember Count Basie, when he came to Seattle at the Palomar Theater in the Northwest where I was living, with just a 7-piece band and paying some heavy dues, and all he could afford to carry was 7 people back in 1948. And Billy Eckstine, who was really on top with a dozen or more gold records, he came to Basie and he said, "Bass, you come play with me. Here's the bread. Put your big band back together and let me help you out on some dates." And a few years later, Basie was happening with Joe Williams, and he had a hit record. Eckstine was in trouble, and Basie took him on the road with him and helped him. It was a family thing. We got to remember that. It was then, and it should be now. If we don't look out for each other, nobody's going to be there to look out for us. Nobody's going to have a hit record every year. We all need to do something to draw on when our records are not on the charts. They're not on the radio. They're not on Soul Train. And if you don't go for the long run or longevity, you lose the opportunity to grow as a creative and spiritual human being. If you give in to impatience, you can only increase a pressure to think about just getting over, and it's much more important to think about getting better.